So Cam Reddish has not been very good offensively out of the gate. His percentages have been about as bad as they possibly can be. I mean, 20% from the field. He is 1 for 18 on three-pointers, and, it is what it is. It has not been great so far for Cam, and I think this is interesting because I think Cam is just a very interesting prospect. I mean, you see the size and the occasional fluidity of, what his shot can look like when it was at Duke, or, the times when he can bust out something kind of athletic, and you think that this guy can really be something. But then there was a whole lot of stuff about, well, does he care enough, and is he committed enough to really being good at something, and is he as good of a shooter as we think he is? Because, again, his percentages at Duke were not very good, and, 5 games is nowhere near enough to have a real opinion about a dude. I mean, Trae Young was bad for a decent stretch to start last season, as we remember, and now he's fine, but I think this is all just... It's all my favorite word. It's interesting when you look at Cam Reddish. So the first thing I think to make note of, or the first thing I actually want to talk about, is when he had to play point guard when Trae Young was out versus Miami. And, Cam didn't shoot well, and there were a couple times when he overcommitted to a drive and didn't really read the defense and things like that. But he did seem pretty competent as a ball handler for a dude who is 6'8", 20 years old. So that was kind of intriguing. Can that translate into any sort of craftiness off the pick and roll or being able to beat guys off the dribble? I don't know. I mean, one thing with Cam is he's a solid athlete, but he's not a great one. And even then, he looks... I mean, everyone looks better as an athlete when they don't have the ball, clearly. But with Cam, I think it's even a little more noticeable when he has the ball and he's attempting to do anything besides just move side to side along the perimeter, handoff plays and things like that. I don't really know how you fix that. I mean, I think really you would just hope that if he's going to be a guy who has the ball, and, based on giving him the point guard role with Trae Young out, I feel like Atlanta at least somewhat envisions that for him, then you'd hope that he really makes strides with his handle and his reading of defenses and things like that. And he could get there. I mean, I don't think it's not impossible for him to do that. It might take a little bit of time, but that's something. I do want to say, defensively, I think Cam has shown some things. Not that I've seen every Hawks game, but, when I've locked in on him just defensively, it wasn't horrible. And I've seen some people on the internet suggest that he's actually looked like above average defensively. And, that could be something. He's definitely got the size to be a solid defensive player. But of course the offense it's more exciting, it's more of what you hope with him. We can get to the shooting now. It's frightening to say, but there is a chance that Cam Reddish is just actually not that good of a shooter. I mean, 33% from outside in college, 77% from the line. His percentages were even a little worse from 3 in the conference portion of the season, whatever you would technically call that in college. But those are like the bigger games, right? So that's a fear. I mean, if you're going to be a shooter who can't shoot that well, then I don't really know how you're going to be a positive contributor if you're not going to be some awesome dude off the dribble. So hopefully Cam can just get to a point of that. I mean, does it remind you of like Ben McLemore a little bit, where it's this dude who you think has all the tools to be a quality offensive player, and then you have him out there and suddenly it's, no, this guy actually isn't that good off the dribble, and his shooting, well, it might be good in practice, and it's occasionally good in games, but, day to day, it's a little disappointing. It's just simply not what you thought it was going to be. I don't know. I mean, again, I don't want to go too hard on a dude after 5 games of his career. I mean, Ben McLemore has been in the league for like 6 seasons now, so I feel comfortable saying all that. So we got to give Cam time, and I think he ended up in a good spot in Atlanta because they understand development, and they're not going to kill him if he has a bad stretch and things like that, so that's good, but he's got to show that he can really play. Now, once Trae Young is back, which is whenever that is, I really don't know, you assume that means Cam can get some more open looks. I mean, we have to assume that he can at least make open threes from the corner or something. I mean, if he can't even do that this season, then that is pretty frightening stuff. But again, we just got to give him time, and I think he's in a good place that's going to give him a lot of time and believe in him and all that. Now, if we can project forward, like, what is my gut feeling about Cam Reddish right now? I mean, based on everything that was said about him going into this, and then what he has done so far, I don't think he's going to be some awesome player down the road. Do I think he can be like a good NBA player? Yes. But I don't know if he's going to be great at anything. You know, I mean, could he get to a point where he can be like a secondary ball handler for you? Maybe. Can he at least make open shots? Probably. And because of his size, you think, okay, you might even be pretty good in transition and cutting, and I do think he's got some potential as a defender. So, you know, what does that all equal out to? Does that equal him being like, I don't know, like Evan Fournier? Just a nice 16, 17 point guy who can do a little bit of everything offensively, but he's not necessarily like above average at anything. If we're talking about like starter average, you know, maybe. And to be fair, that's like a nice player. I think everybody would like to have that type of dude on their team. I guess if there is a little more potential with his playmaking, then maybe he's got like some Nicholas Batum in his future, this guy who can do a little bit of everything with rebounds and that, because Cam has grabbed some rebounds so far, so that's cool. You know, maybe that's his thing. Or I use the Ben McLemore thing again. What if he's a guy who just kind of floats around the NBA, never really finds a place for himself, and never becomes the player that you could have been optimistic about him turning into? I think, unfortunately, that's a possibility as well. So we're just going to have to keep an eye on that one. This could be one of those things where like he technically sucks, but he just shows marginal progress, and then you look up after a couple years and it's like, oh, Cam Reddish is a solid NBA player, you know? So, maybe.